preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
Definitely live the tape.
You know what? It always happens. What is
Yes.
going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? Welcome to this week's installment of The Dads, not always on wrestling. And yes, I know we've mentioned it a couple times on the streams we've been on lately. You know, this is a makeup episode.
Yes.
Due to
Yes.
circumstances that were beyond our control last week, we were
Yes.
unable to do Dads Live. Due to circumstances that are beyond our control for next week, we'll be unable to do Dads Live. So we've moved straight into the canning phase of the
That's right.
Dads,
We are
not
back in old
always
school
on
mode.
wrestling. That's right. Back the way we started it when we relaunched the channel.
Yes.
And you know what? At the end of the day, I think it's better because these two episodes, notwithstanding today's episode and next week's episode,
Right.
because of the fact that they have to be done in crunch time,
Yes.
it gives us a lot more time to get our stuff together, get stuff filmed, have it in the bag already. You know, everybody's waiting for the man with the bag, and he comes in a couple months, but have everything in the bag so that we can just coast through,
Yes.
you know. And today's topic, which was supposed to air on Labor Day, a day where the kids were not in school,
Yes.
is the top 10 movies that are set in school. Now,
Yes.
set in school is a very subjective term, you know. The school plays a factor in some way, shape, or form to the storytelling of the film. And it
Yes.
doesn't matter what type of school. It could be a college, it could be a high school, there's junior high, there's elementary, there's, you know, kindergarten. There's kids that are in detention for a whole day. There's kids that play hooky from school. You know, it's very subjective, as Jeff just threw it up. And, you know, as long as the school is an integral part of the storytelling of the film and not just, oh, look, they drove past a school. That counts, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's what we're looking at today. So
Yes.
I happen to know that there's only two movies that we share because
Yes.
I've seen Jeff's list,
Yes.
and I'll reiterate this when we get ready to start my list. But I went completely left field today because I wanted to try to make sure that we didn't have too many similarities because
Yes.
I know Jeff. I know his mentality. I know his wheelhouse. I know how he thinks on these things.
Yes. Quite so.
So the fact that I was able to concoct a list and we still only share two, it's going to be a good day, Tater. So you're going to have 18 movies, and I'm only covering 13 on my channel this month.
I was gonna say I have quite a few that are on your monthly list here. So it's
Yeah. So even if we both had some combination of those 13 movies,
right.
there's still 5 different ones because I'm only doing 18 movies. And I know for a fact, having seen his list and knowing my list, there's way more than 5 that I'm not covering this month. There's way more than 5 on my list alone because there's only 2 on my list that I'm covering this month. So
Gotta appreciate the co-host giving an unintentional segue because we're starting with one of the ones you're covering, and you're covering it this week, as a matter of fact, on Wednesday, I believe, before the Greg Cherry Show. There we go. Number 10 right out of the gate, Mean Girls again. This is very much a, looking back, I like it more than I did at the time because, well, Lindsay's a little bit of a train wreck. Let's just not front about it, you know. But and as a result, I wasn't into a lot of her content post her Disney graduation out of the Parent Trap era. But this one's damn good. It is a great. I mean, it's entirely set in school, this one. This is all about school and perception and God, trying to fit in a new place, which is a mucker futher for anybody, especially at that age. Golly, is it a son of a bitch to try to fit in someplace where you really don't feel you belong, and you're told point blank you don't belong.
Yeah,
It
you
sucks.
figure Katie has been homeschooled her entire life, and
Right.
she's entering not just public school, high school
Yeah.
for her junior year.
Yeah. Her first schooling out of homeschool is her second to last year of high school.
Yeah.
You can't tell me the freaking adjustment and therapy levels are not going to be exponential. Like, damn. And sure, that's exactly how it plays out.
Yeah.
Of course, we get the the proper ending, the way things ought to be in the world. And if we look at the world now, we go, okay, you're right. But it ended how it should, and that's what's important. Even though it's not a Disney film per se, very much a Disney lesson, a Disney moment. And I'm gonna probe the brand way too damn much seeing where I am today, but that's okay.
I have a feeling, it's like you've just switched shills. Like you don't even shill your own shit anymore. You're shilling the Mouse Mafia stuff.
Hey, I will say this: as y'all are seeing this in real time on Monday afternoon, I am, with any luck, on my way back from wearing this actually to the physical therapy testing down here down in Anaheim. So we'll see how that lays out. But yeah, we're also not doing it live because I probably wouldn't make it back in time. And if I did make it back in time, I'd be like laying on the floor in convulsions, like, I'm okay, let's do the lesbian, got this, because I'd be so physically worn out. Yeah. So that's the reason why main reason why we're doing that today. But Mean Girls is just so... There's a very good reason that JJ chose this as one of his, ladies leading the way movies for this week, because it is very much a female, both empowered and a subjugation, like trying to hold people down, like trying to not, empower your fellow female. That's, very much a topical point even now.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've loved Mean Girls ever since it came out. The cast is just amazing, between Lindsay, Lacey Chabert, Tina Fey, of course, Tim Meadows, and I enjoyed this movie so much that I had to really get into it when I got ready to review it.
Right.
Because I'm airing my review for it on Wednesday.
Yes.
For a reason. On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
Aha! Okay. There you go.
Right. I went out and got a pink shirt just because of that one line in the movie. That's God tremendous. Bless Wally World, $6. So it's not a huge waste of money, but...
No. Seriously, let's show all the corporations. Gotta love Wally World for their inexpensive stuff. Gotta detest the Mouse Mafia for their expensive stuff. So it's all good.
You can't love Wally World for the way they run their company. You can only love them for their merchandise.
No, and that's a universal truth on both sides of this equation. Yeah. Anyway,
we're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
No, I'd rather follow the White Rabbit into whatever version of Wonderland I get, whether it's Johnny Depp or not, because that's a whole other conversation. Anyway, number 9 is one that could be easily featured next month on a list, except that the show we're doing next month has nothing to do with one and done's. There actually was a sequel to it, but there should never have been a sequel to it, because everything beyond this was just god freaking awful. And this one was so just right place, right time, right actress, right theme. Everything just hit on point in this movie. Go ahead.
I would say, are you talking about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2? Because unfortunately, I am covering that next month, so I know you can't be talking about that.
No,
I know how much you love throwing that sequel in wherever you can, because Rob Zombie's Halloween very easily could have been a one and done. Sequel never needed to be made.
Says the guy who tweeted and said he liked it when it came out, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, I will find that tweet again. I will put that shit up. I swear.
It was a Facebook post. It's already past its memories.
Well, then I'll definitely look for it then. Anyway, Number 9 is definitely one that should have been one and done. And if we're all being real about it, it really is a one and done because the other stories tied in ish. Carrie, man,
We're
oh
all gonna
man,
laugh at you.
right? Yeah, it's Sissy Spacek, which in our well, not our generation, in the generation that came after us, have these youngins name a Sissy Spacek movie. I'll wait,
You're
which
right.
is messed up, but that is how it is. But this one, again, it's very much the same type of theme. You're trying to fit in. You don't really belong, and you're told all the damn time you don't belong. But do you really know who you're dealing with when you say something like that? Because this young lady decided to telekinetically bolt everybody in and burn the place down. So it kind of didn't work out so well for the mean girls in this one.
It's very much an opposite extreme of the Water Boy.
Yes. I am so glad you brought that up because it's very much the case. Waterboy, Bobby, Bobby ended up getting his happy ending more ways than one, right, Fruza? Anyway,
Heyo.
but again, we all know I'm not big on the horror movies or the thriller movies or whatever. Lord knows I can't stomach too much of them, but this one's enough of a at least at first, subtle, because it ain't subtle at the end.
No.
But
I wouldn't really call this a horror film. I mean,
no.
yes, it does fit into said genre.
Yes.
I consider it more of a psychological thriller.
Yes. Yeah. If Blockbuster had more than 5 categories, it would fit into psychological thriller, but it didn't.
Yes.
So that's why I put it in horror. Blockbuster mindset after all these years.
That's right.
But and like I said, it was a great story, a very, very well made movie for as old as it is. With the graphics and everything being what they were back in 1970, whatever. But they tried too hard with sequels, and they definitely tried too hard with that remake. Oofa.
Yeah.
Oofa.
Well, I will definitely be getting into all of those at some point because little insider information here. Next year for my 31 Days of Halloween is going to be Stephen King films.
Yes, and let's not undersell the fact that behind all this mayhem is the devious mind of Stephen King. So
yeah. So this will be featured. I don't know if we'll get to the Rage Carrie 2 or the Chloe Grace Moretz reboot or any of that stuff because Stephen King does have a lot of material to cover.
Yes,
enough that it can be split into 2 months if we're being honest.
Right.
So it will get covered eventually, but I don't know if I'll get to all of them next year, but the original definitely will be on the list.
So next year can be the Stephen King movies that did work, and then the following year should have been done. There you go.
Oh no. We got to mix it up, son. Got to mix it up. I know. Got to go back to the slasher franchises. Got to go back to the old school.
Oh yes.
Trying to mix it up. Kind of like how last year I did trilogies, and this year I did movies with one sequel. Next year I'll probably do franchises, and then rotate again. Go back to trilogies, etc.
I dig it. Number 8 is another one that honestly could have been a one and done, and it would have been okay. It turned into not quite a prolific American Pie level franchise, but again, anything beyond the first one, very hit or miss. This one, though, hits, and I am ashamed of myself. I like this movie so damn much. I'm not going to lie. But again, this is Kirsten. It's Kirsten Dunst, right? I always mess her name up.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, but just this is when she's not quite at Spider-Man yet, almost there. Not quite Spider-Man year yet, but she was still very much a prolific actress before that. Coming from childhood, and this is one of her first major adult starring roles. So
yeah.
it was cool to see her. Again, Bubbly blonde cheerleader. Gee, that must have been a bitch. So out of type.
Yeah,
But again, it's very much the same vein as some of the other movies that are going to come up, later for me. A movie you did last week, actually, Dangerous Minds. Kind of implanting that outsider element into the urban territory. It's very much they're battling from beneath to try to overcome. Ironically, they're trying to overcome the status instead of the other way around in most movies. So I enjoy the story. The competitions are always cool to watch because having been such an integral part of our high school program out here with both football and cheer, I chuckle at some of the stuff. It's like, man, we could have, especially because the year this came out was actually my junior year, so I was still very much involved. 2000, right? This movie came out in 2000?
Think so, yeah.
It's either right around or shortly after I graduated. Some of the routines, just like, yeah, we wouldn't get away with that shit here. Just no way. This is very movie. Yeah, if we tried that, we'd be suspended or expelled for some of the crap they were pulling off there.
For real, like nowadays, cheerleading competitions look like they're auditioning to be working, down at the local strip club.
Yeah, it's
back then. If we did that, way back in my days, almost 20 years ago, they'd have been expelled.
Oh yeah. It's
period.
We do have
not suspended, expelled.
Yeah, like you can't attend school in this district no more. You need to go into other places where they tolerate that naughtiness. Now, I will say that our school actually has I don't know if the entire district does this, but a high school I went to that we're still part of now has a dance team specifically for things of that nature, but they ain't dressed nowhere near as, with good reason. They're children.
Yes.
For the love of God, they're children. No. So, but this movie, again, it's a great story. It's very much a turn a theme on its ear. Like, usually you get and again, this is the whitest dude in the room saying this, so forgive me in advance, but usually you get the white privileged folks having to, have the ability to suppress the minorities, and this is the white girls going into a competition going, oh shit, we gotta fight now, and it's so perfect because these cheerleaders, Kirsten's team, has always had the advantage because they've had the money, they've had the training, they've had everything basically handed to them. And now we've got them having to think on the fly, which both of us being involved in wrestling with another, thinking on the fly and concept on the fly is a bitch. But if you pull it off, it's even more satisfying than lay it out for 20 minutes and then go out there and do it for 20 minutes. It's so much more gratifying, at least for me.
Agreed.
So number 7, I think number 7 hits home for me more than just the actual fact that it's a great 50s era movie. You think about it, it's really George Lucas's first big something. Yeah. Even before Star Wars, which is, George Lucas said Star Wars? Yes. Yes, he did. It's really one of the lead actors branching out of Mayberry, and ultimately what set him down the path to Wisconsin, if you think about it. American Graffiti. And again, Harrison Ford's in this one too, so it's kind of
set him down the path to happier days.
Yes. Very good. Yes. And apparently George and Harrison Ford worked just perfectly with each other because kind of worked out for both of them down the line there.
Well, you figure Harrison is in a blink and you miss it moment,
right? But
to say that he is a part of this movie.
Well, I think the point I was trying to make was even in a blink and you miss it, George Lucas saw enough of something where he put him in the Han Solo role, and I know that he had a hand in Indiana Jones being cast. So
there you go.
Hey, if a blink and you miss it gets you freaking Han Solo and Indiana Jones, dude, keep on blinking and missing me, please.
Right.
Like, Jesus. And again, I'm going to go corporate here briefly.
Here we
Man,
go.
that reunion of Temple of Doom at D23 was the cutest damn thing. We actually showed it on Monk Night
Yes.
Saturday. That was just you're actually the one that posted it, so I appreciate that. That was really cool to see that. It's one of the many things I regret not being there this weekend. But anyway,
Yeah.
this one.
But between that and the Muppets thing.
Oh, right. Damn, that was
Just
depressing.
seeing the picture of Ariel, Jodie
Right?
Benson with the Muppets.
Yes. Yeah, it was one of those. Now that I am enough ahead of the game on getting information, hopefully, I can go if they have it here next year. Because
It used to be D23 was an every other year thing. I don't know if it still is. I think it's now on the even years because they had to cancel it that one year because of the pandemic.
right,
Because
yeah,
it's usually been on the odd years.
yeah.
D23 for the other years is usually in Florida for Disney World. They usually
Yes.
trade coasts.
So
So theoretically speaking, it should be 2024, which should give you plenty of time
yes,
to work your magic there, Mickey.
yes. Well, with any luck, I'll have been there a year by the one in Florida next year, if that is a option. But we'll see. Anyway, American Graffiti again. You know, it's a great movie. It stands alone in and of itself. It is
Yes.
one of those timeless, 50s era set movies set in a school setting for the most part. Again, we talked about it, they kind of deviate a lot in these movies.
I was going to say, if you want to get technical, it takes place on the evening of their graduation.
Yeah.
So the school it's there,
Yeah.
but it's minor, but it's there enough because all these kids are graduating. Like Ronnie Howard's character is, contemplating what's happening for college the next year.
Yep. So school is very much on their mind and what is to come once they leave school, which is why
while the building may not be as much of a focal point,
right?
It's definitely all about what has just happened with graduating and what is to come for the future, be it college, entering the workforce, etc.
Right. And again, we talked about it. This very much led to Gary Marshall going, "Hey, wait a minute, we got something here." Happy days. So,
which then spun off Laverne and Shirley with Ron's girlfriend in American Graffiti, Cindy Williams. So
yes, and
it's
doesn't
the
help that
circle of life.
Yeah, doesn't hurt that Gary's sister also got a part of Laverne and Shirley, but crazy to think how long ago so many of these things were. And, League of Their Own is still a thing, thanks to Amazon. So there you go. But yeah, I love this movie. Now, you said very clearly that this...
and it does have a sequel, More American Graffiti. I've never seen the sequel.
No, nor have
I. Some people would say that's probably for the best, but it is a movie with one sequel. Can add to that list for down the road there.
There you go. So this last one didn't take place in school hardly at all. Like you said, it was a underlying kind of like a under the table theme. This next one takes place entirely in school. It's so much in school they in detention the whole damn movie. And again, how can you possibly even talk about a movie set in school? How can you have a back to school themed month like you're having without The Breakfast Club? My goodness. And just this cast is just ridiculously talented, ridiculously... some of them are overhyped. Some of them, I feel, are underhyped even now to this day, which is bullshit after all these years that these five people are still, either so, jammed into the stereotype of this is what they do. And, again, Anthony Michael Hall is only now really with, having done Dark Knight, having done the Halloween movies is really starting to make a resurgence-ish in this part of his life, this part of his career. Whereas after
Cough,
this,
cough, Ali Sheedy, cough, cough.
yeah, after this and after Weird Science, Anthony Michaels just kind of just like hovered there. Like he didn't really do a whole lot after this, unfortunately.
He
Judd
tried
Nelson
to
again.
change his image. He tried to change his image with Edward Scissorhands being the complete dick boyfriend. It
Right?
didn't. No one bought it because he had been the geeky kid holding up Molly Ringwald's panties in 16 Candles. It's like, no, you can't be a dickhead. I don't buy you as a
No.
badass.
It's like, no, you can't be a badass, dickhead. You're the one holding the pen. You're the one with the freaking bra in your head, creating a woman out of computers. Like, no, stop, no, Anthony, it's about Anthony. Molly Ringwald again. You mentioned 16 Candles. It just, yeah, pretty all the things that Molly did in the 80s, and talk about getting freaking not only put in a typecast into a part, but man, jammed into that hole and just not able to break free from that. It's so ridiculous. Even Emilio, who is in one of your favorite Western series ever, he did that. He did the Ducks, of course, and he did this, all the ones with the Brat Pack. But he didn't really get that breakout past those movies.
Yeah, unfortunately, which is why he went to behind the camera and started to do more directing.
Hey, and you know what? Some of the stuff he did, can't even fault him for that. And he did come back to us in the Ducks briefly. We're losing him again, but we'll see. We'll see how Game Changers does in season 2. But yeah, this is one of those. If none of them did anything else, Time in a Bottle, and all of them come off so absolutely perfect in this movie. You've got John Hughes behind the camera, which is never a bad thing in the 80s.
I was going to say, you could say that about all the Brat Pack films. If none of those actors or actresses made anything past those films, and we're specifically talking about 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller, Weird Science. There's others that are Brat Pack films beyond those, but if none of those people made any movies outside of those 5 films, they'd still be considered icons.
Yeah. When
you
figure that
those movies were such, like you said, Time in a Bottle, a time capsule.
Yeah.
You want to know what 80s life was? Pop in one of those movies.
Yeah. The fact that even now I saw an ad, because, I see these damned ads on Facebook because I follow, CreepyCon or whatever. The fact that Anthony Michael Hall, and I forget how to say his first name, so forgive me, Elam Mitchell Smith, I probably said that wrong. The fact that both of them had a con appearance recently, and their primary thing they plugged for both of them, even Anthony Michael Hall being in Halloween Kills recently, was big old Weird Science banner. Like, these movies, again, 80s and even 90s now, the icon movies, the very much set in these time movies are so having a resurgence of popularity that they can go out there and make the kind of money they're making off these classic films. So good on them.
And they're so cool too. I'll never forget bumping into Anthony Michael Hall at that convention that day in Long Beach.
Yep.
Taking a picture with the dude for free. Like, he could have easily been charging up the ass.
Yep.
But I asked him for a picture. He was like, get over here. Where's your camera?
Right.
On the contrary, a couple tables down was a man who had made his name, some 30 years prior, painted up in green, trying to overcharge people. And these days he's known as being a cameo. But I digress.
Again, neither one of us have been. That's right. Neither one of us have been shy about our feelings about Mr. Frigg. No, it's okay. It is what it is. The fact that his most recent role that I can think of was actually a guy playing a green-skinned guy in a fan series of Star Trek. So there you go. Talk about typecasting. you mentioned this next one, talking about the Brad Pack movies. So let's just get into it. Let's go ahead and talk about this. One of my favorite things ever. And it's so funny that I say that because I hadn't seen it the whole way through, start to finish, until I moved in with this guy. So,
and that's a crying shame.
It is a crime, but at the same time, I didn't really do all. And again, this is not a knock, so please don't take it as such when you watch this later. But very much a Noah Foster mindset when these movies were coming out, and it was very much wrestling or bust back when I was. I mean, it still is now to a certain extent, but I'm watching more stuff on television and movies than I ever used to. Again,
well, plus you were born in '83, right?
Yes, sir.
So you were 3 years old when this came out.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have seen it in theaters at all. There's no chance in hell of that. But it's funny. I see this movie and I think back, Matthew Broderick. Oh, Inspector Gadget. Oh, Jeff. Alan Ruck. Oh, the captain that killed James T. Kirk. Oh, Jeff. It's like, right. But that's
like, your virtual bitch slap for that.
That's how I see these guys because I didn't see Ferris Bueller till later. But man, now that I have, I mean, I can still take Alan Ruck or leave him because he's a damn freaking weapon jersey throughout the whole movie. But whatever. But that's okay.
Hey, but you know what? I have recorded proof from our top 10 musical moments in non-musical films where you said that on that occasion it was okay for him to wear a Red Wings jersey.
Well, yeah, because he's having the greatest day of his life, so it's okay. It's all good. Other than that, not so much. Yeah. You talk about every, and I mean every, high school student's dream day. Like, Jesus, we all wanted to go and just take a day off, whether we were allowed to or not. Like, okay, bye, I'm out of here. See you later.
Without Ferris Bueller, there is no Zach Morris.
Yes.
Period.
Whether he's trash or not. And
period.
Yeah, guy can see that he's trash at this point, but that's okay. But yeah, without the chutzpah of Ferris Bueller, there's definitely no Zach Morris. There's definitely no anybody in that vein of
Parker Lewis,
lead actor.
Lose.
Yeah, nope, none of that without this movie. And yeah, I try very hard not to look back and regret at this point, especially on stuff like this, because it's movies, Jeff. Relax. Yeah. But I definitely wish I had seen this movie sooner and could appreciate it even more than I already do in the short time I've been able to see it. So iconic is definitely a overused word to say the very friggin' least, but this movie's iconic.
Agreed.
So this one here was a surprise to me because I hadn't seen it in many years. But I went back and rewatched it and forgot how awesome it was, even for 1989, and how far it went to start pulling the lead actor out of his "he's only a ha-ha."
Okay.
Dead Poets Society.
Okay.
Man.
That's a hot take. That's a good one. And believe it or not, that is one I still have never seen.
Man,
I have it booked. I
yes.
have it booked.
Yes.
But I have not seen it yet.
Yeah. When you do another school setting theme month or, whatever, yeah, definitely get on this. It is.
That's not where it's going to fit in. And if I tell you where it's going to fit in, it's going to make you cry.
Very likely. That's okay.
August 2024.
Yep, gonna cry.
10 years since Robin's passing.
Yep,
a whole month of Robin.
Okay, gonna look down and just not acknowledge it. Cool.
Acknowledge me.
Right. And the fact that he's still a world champion saying that, Jesus. Anyway, Robin Williams, the classic clown, the classic, everything's funny, everything's this. This is very much a departure for him. One of the earlier ones where it's a drama for him, and people, Good Will Hunting was the first major, no, he just happened to win the Oscar for that one, which he should have, by the way. This
on
one,
that list too.
Good Morning Vietnam, everything that he did, and again, he tried a lot sooner in his career than Jim Carrey did to break out of that, only haha guy. And this one definitely worked. This one is a phenomenal story. You have a guy who is using his teaching of poetry to inspire a group of students, which even in 1989, poetry was like, that's lame. So, and it's set in 1959, which is even more. Even back then, they were like, teenagers were very much becoming a thing in the late 50s, early 60s. So they were rebelling against everything, and poetry was just not cool. And this just works. It really does. It's so well told. You can't go wrong with Robin Williams. A classic movie. People compare it a lot to Mr. Holland's Opus, and I can't disagree with it. A lot of the same basic themes. I just like this one better because it was first. That's one of the many reasons. I love Robin Williams. I like Richard Dreyfuss. I do, but I think that Dead Poets Society definitely did the basic story just a little bit better.
That's fair.
But yeah, definitely recommend both. Mr. Holland's Opus is one of Richard Dreyfuss's better roles, and that's saying something. Richard Dreyfuss has a lot of better roles. All right, we talked about this one earlier. It was
what number are we at?
We're at number 3 for me.
Okay.
No worries. We talked about this earlier. This was on your movies this month. It actually aired on Labor Day when this was supposed to air. So we'll go ahead and throw that up because this was. You talk about a hell of a time period for an actress. This is only a couple years, I believe, after. 3 years after Batman Returns for Michelle. And again, it's based on a true story, which is even crazier to think about it. This was for lack of a better term, in real life, I'm trying to get the name right here, so forgive me. U.S. Marine Luann Johnson, who just a few years before the movie actually was made, took up a post teaching at a urban high school, for lack of a better term, and faced a lot of the challenges you see Michelle Pfeiffer's character face in the movie. And you talk about, I make the joke about being the whitest guy in the room. She was definitely the whitest girl in the room. Like, she, going in there and teaching a group of students who, God, they're dealing with segregation. Even in that point in history, they're dealing with extreme poverty. They're dealing with all the crap that, us with privilege tended. That doesn't still exist. It's not a thing. Oh yeah, it's very much a freaking thing.
Yeah.
Especially in Palo Alto, where this takes place. I mean, it was just. And if this movie didn't hit you square in your perception/stereotype gut, then you weren't paying the hell attention. It's just that simple.
Both ways. I mean, the kids call her white bread.
Yeah. And, for her to have again, she's lady, but for her to have the balls to stick around and deal with that anyway, good on her. Both the real, I mean, if you're a Marine, you got to be a badass, right? So it's, you're not going to take that shit from anybody, let alone even, in a strange setting, some punk kid. It's like, you're going to call me? Okay, well, guess what? I'm a U.S. Marine. Do it again. Go ahead. That'd be my mindset. Like, I'm too weak to be around here. How many bullets did you bring home in your gut this week? I'll wait. And again, where they live, they could have that conversation, unfortunately, which was part of the dynamic of the story.
Yeah.
So and again, it didn't get a whole lot of good reviews. It was very mixed, but man, it took off like a rocket commercially. And
thanks largely in part to one particular song.
Yes, and I will briefly praise this man because Lord knows I hate doing that shit. Gangsta's Paradise.
Here it goes.
Right, exactly. It's all the Long Beach Grand Prix's fault that I met him and got the interaction I did, but whatever. But that song, even now, like, it's still resonates so deep with so many different walks of society. And I think that's the key here. And I think if anybody else initially does the song, if anybody else initially cuts the track, it doesn't hit near as hard.
No.
But because Coolio, who was very much, struggling in his own way at that point, had a hit with it, the movie took off. The song freaking took off to the moon, Cameron Grimes style.
To the moon!
So much so that it's one of the rare ones that Weird Al got in legit trouble for parodying. So,
But that's debatable based on whose side you listen to.
Of course,
Al asked for permission. Coolio supposedly gave permission.
Yep.
Then permission was retracted, and it was too late. And
Yep.
so beef occurred. And at the end of the day, no disrespect to Coolio, I think he was just way too high when he gave permission and didn't realize that he did.
That's
and later, people were like, yo, you hear what this white boy doing to your song?
Right.
And then it became cool to diss Weird Al. But Al's career didn't suffer.
No,
anybody else had done that, their career probably would have stunted and been over.
Right.
But Weird Al was so beloved and already had such a reputation of being the guy to go to the artists and get their blessings that they're like, I believe Al. I believe he called you. You gave him the blessing, and now you just think it's cool. Your buddies think that you gotten dissed, and so you think it's better to be a gangster and act hard about it.
Yeah. Well,
period.
It's God's tale. I was gonna not give my okay, but then I got high. And it's kind of what happened there. And hey, Amish Paradise, the video is tremendous. Florence Henderson and the Michelle Pfeiffer role. It's like, God damn it, it's everybody's mom. Like, what the shit, man?
And I think it's cool, whether intentional or unintentional, that this followed Dead Poet Society for you, because you talked about the poetry aspect, and Luann has the same issue trying to teach her kids. So she goes the route I would go. She goes to psalm lyrics.
Yep.
She breaks out some Bob Dylan, some Mr. Tambourine Man, and reads that to them as poetry, and then segues into, forgive me, I believe the poet's name is Dylan Thomas. And can you find the similarities between the two poems now, Mr. Tambourine Man and this poem by him?
Do not go gentle into that good
night,
by Dylan Thomas. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And brings it, to make it fun for them.
Yeah, it's and again, you go outside the box in situations like this.
Absolutely.
You're comparing Mr. Tambourine Man to a Dylan Thomas poem. You're rewarding with candy. You're rewarding with theme park trips. And the administration is trying to suppress it. It's like, what are you? And you know what? It's so damn. I always forget how much this movie gets me worked up, because the administration trying to keep things, status quo level. It's like, we fought the same shit when I was in high school. We're fighting the same shit now when my boy is in high school. It's like, damn it.
And we're going to be fighting the same shit in 10 years.
We are, because administration just can't understand, because either they've been there and think their right way is the right way, or they've seen how the other way goes and don't want to deal with the extra, which is like, come on, man, they're kids. They got to be able to learn, and develop at their own rate. So,
unfortunately, school administration is very much like retail management. You get set in your ways, and you are unwilling to listen to any potential idea that could bring new, vibrant boost. Because this is what has always worked.
Yep.
But then you want to criticize, numbers are down, work rate is down, morale is down, but you don't want to listen to the ways to boost all those things.
Nope. We had...
Okay, let me get off my pedestal here.
I mean, we had an administrator at our school, who would not do what needed to be done to get one of our athletic teams back to where it needed to be. She left her office within a year. We were contending for state championships again.
Hey.
Just saying.
Daryl Sutter came into the Kings, what was it, December 2011? What happened to that June?
Exactly. You can't invoke real progress without lack of fear to change. Simple as that. And this movie very much is that. Now, number 2 is going to be polarizing, I'm sure, for different audiences.
Ooh, you have my attention.
Some people stick by this movie. Some
Mm-hmm.
people praise the movie more than the TV spin-off, follow-up, whatever you want to call it. Some people stick to the creator's rhetoric and go, the movie's not canon. It kind of is what it is, and I enjoy the TV show much better. I tend to ride that line like a show pony because I loved the movie when it came out, and I adore the TV show even now.
Okay.
Now, people are going to, on both sides get on my ass about this, so it is what it is.
Hey, not me. You know I've got nothing but love for Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes, I know this.
Primarily because I never dived down the rabbit hole that was the TV show.
And man,
so the movie, man, I hold in such a high regard.
Exactly.
Christy Swanson, Luke Perry, may he rest in peace. Paul Rubens, David Arquette, Rutger Hauer, minor blink and you miss it role by another man who ended up with a stellar career out of it. He goes by the name of Ben Affleck.
Yeah, Ben Affleck's in this. David Arquette's in this. People forget that.
So, I named him.
Oh, I didn't even. I didn't hear you say David Arquette. I apologize. This thing's still acting weird. Anyway, so much good in this, and for even Joss, who people have their feelings about Joss Whedon nowadays. Let's not even kid ourselves. But
there's the true polarization.
Yeah, for Joss to almost throw this away as it's not really what I wanted to do. It's like, that's a dick movie. This is a damn good movie, Whedon. What the hell's the matter with you? And again, I don't mind the fact that they, it's a parallel, story, or it took place in a different continuity. At least they still acknowledge it. That I don't have a problem with. But man,
it's an alter universe, just like the Kelvin timeline.
Right. To completely write off Christie, Luke Perry's Pike, who, man, I think that would have been a great thread through the TV show had they gone that route. Whoever they cast as Pike, right? But Donald Sutherland, who is still a legend, even he was a living legend at that point. He of course, but man, to write off his version of her Watcher and just have it be a completely different actor in a throwaway scene in, I believe, the last season of the TV show that we actually see Buffy start her training. Because by the time we get the TV show, she's already, gone through the end of this movie in a different timeline, burned the school gym down, and moved on to Sunnydale from LA. So we don't see any of her LA life until flashbacks later. And they completely not only retconned the movie, but took the scenes that really made up the heart and soul of the movie and just made it like a couple of liners. It's like, that's the only really bitch I have with the TV show itself. I don't have a problem with different timelines. Like you said, the Kelvin timeline in Star Trek was a very difficult thing for me to process, but I did it. So, but this movie, again, it's 1992. You figure Paul Rubens is only a year off of the horrible, naughty, terrible thing he did. It's like, dude, he was whacking off in a theater. Get over it.
Yeah. In an adult theater, no less.
Adult theater at that. Like, seriously. It's
he wasn't sitting there in the middle of Beauty and the Beast. He was in an adult theater.
If anybody else had done that, nobody wouldn't have given a shit. And if Pee Wee Herman didn't look like freaking Beelzebub while he was doing it, nobody would have given a shit, right? So, ironically, the makeup for Buffy the Vampire Slayer wasn't too far off how he looked in that mugshot, so let's just go ahead and say that out loud. But yeah, he had that and Batman Returns the same year. So, for all that time he took off and all the need he felt to go away, the two movies he had right after this bullshit went down, again, both not the lead role in either case, But man, Paul hit home with both of these. Batman Returns, I still say, is better than the original Batman movie. I'll say that. I'll die on that friggin' hill. Buffy is so criminally underrated now because of the TV show and how.
Absolutely agree.
And I'm not even going to disagree that the TV show for 7 seasons was phenomenal, as was Angel. But man, to undercredit the movie is absolutely criminal, and I don't applaud it at all. Because y'all, even if you are straight up Buffyverse and you believe in the Joss Whedon, whatever, go back and watch this movie and tell me it doesn't stand alone as a great film. If you never see an episode of the Sarah Michelle Gellar version ever, this movie kicks all that ass.
And especially coming up when I did,
Right?
again, you were 9. You hadn't even quite turned 10 when this came out.
Right.
I was neck deep in 90210.
I was gonna say you were.
So to go and see a movie at my local multiplex with Dylan McKay in one of the lead roles.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
You figure for a 16-year-old kid to go see this movie with, probably even at that point, the main person on 90210, the breakout, the Fonzie of that show.
I'm going to see a movie with a gorgeous blonde and Dylan McKay.
Yeah.
Teenage hormones, I'm just saying.
Say it's like.
Because I want to be Luke Perry, and he's in a movie with a hot blonde.
Yeah. It's like, how many times I see this movie before my parents start wondering about my sanity? For real. So good.
Not trying to objectify Christy Swanson. That's not my intent. So don't send me hate mail as a result of that. But, think about it from a 16-year-old's perspective.
And if you want to do that, send hate mail to the Hefner State because they put her in Playboy. So, just throw that out there. All right, number one's going to be sad. Right now. Number one's going to be sad because of a recent happening, unfortunately.
Okay.
But it is my favorite, primarily school set movie. It will forever be my favorite musical movie. It's one of my favorite plays that was turned into a movie.
Is it the word?
Just keep going on and on and on, or I can just throw up the graphic and get going on my actual review.
It's the word. Okay.
Oh. And again, Olivia just passed. I know. It is, it is what it is. I don't think I can say anything more about this movie that I haven't said in the last 20 years of doing this podcasting stuff regularly, the last 3 years that we've been back, the over 10 years we've been doing shows together. Grease is the word. And I know Bird is the word. I know we're going to get back into that shit again. But Grease hits every point for me in a movie, in a story, and casting. Everything about this, I absolutely adore. I will always cherish the movie. I was even more high on my decision making in my love life because Dylan's mother actually went to high school at the high school that they set the facade, the exteriors at for Rydell High. When I realized that, and I was within walking distance at the time of where they lived, it was like, dude, let's just have the pilgrimage. Let's just go ahead and do this, for real. Again, as you're watching this, I'm hopefully on a different pilgrimage. We'll see if it actually plays out today or not. But, stuff like that, it's just, you can't. It was like going to, you and I, when we went to the different houses from Back to the Future, going to the Halloween locations. Like, you can't properly quantify a feeling that even just the locations of the settings of the film or the TV show bring out in you. When that stuff happens in your heart and in your brain, you have to include it on every list you possibly can because nothing else does that for you like that.
It's just something about these movies, and like you said, the raw emotion that it evokes, and especially when you discover that you're so near to it.
Yeah.
It, like I've talked about a couple times, I talked about it on my review of this movie, but I had seen Good Burger probably about 100 times before I noticed the West Covina sign in the backdrop.
Right?
and then did my research and went to where Good Burger and Mondo Burger were located at.
Yeah. Yep.
It was 20 years later almost.
And he still
15
gets up.
years later, and it's like I'm standing in front of the restaurant that Ed worked at.
Yeah.
Like at least the exteriors.
Yeah, exactly.
The interiors were probably a soundstage, we're being honest, but
Right.
the exteriors of where all that stuff took place. And it's like, dude, growing up like I did, growing up with all that, Keenan and Kel, the Good Burger movie, to then step foot there.
Yeah.
And you talked about being so close to Rydell. My dad went to West Beverly High.
Right?
Technically Torrance High School, but it's the exteriors that they used for West Beverly. We just were talking about 90210 and Luke Perry.
The same exterior they used for the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV, Sunnydale High School.
Like you mentioned, going to the Back to the Future houses, growing up, watching those movies from essentially when they first started hitting VHS, because 85, I was 9 years old. Right. I don't think I saw the original in theaters. I don't think I saw part 2 in theaters. I might have, but I know I've seen part 3 in theaters.
Yes.
At the time. Right. I think I saw the original Back to the Future on a re-release in theaters.
Of course. Yeah.
But like you say, to stand there in front of those houses.
Yeah.
To stand there under the tree that George McFly is peeping on. And he drops in the road and is supposed to get knocked loopy, which starts his romance with Lorraine.
Yes.
Of course, it ends up being Marty.
Yeah. To stand on that spot.
Yeah. Right? It's like, dude, this is where that scene took place.
Seriously. The
Go
fact
into
that
the
same
Twin
day.
Pines Mall.
Oh God, that was a freaking trip to see that sign. Like seriously, that still mind fucks me to this day, for real.
Back to Greece, though. You being so close to Rydell is like, that's a place I'd like to go, because Grease is one of the first musicals outside of the Disney verse.
Of course.
That I can sit here and say, yeah, I like that musical. Like Annie, Grease, and Rocky Horror were probably the 3 first musicals, non-Disney verse, that really resonated with me. And you want to talk about different time periods. Annie was when I was a kid. Grease and Rocky came in college.
Yeah, shoot, Rocky didn't come in for me until after I started dating Dylan's mom, so that was long after that movie came out. But yeah, just the idea of pretty much every weekend when we would walk to our local breakfast spot there by her parents' place, and we have to walk by the high school every single time. It's like, it's still there. Because, and again, going out of my way to buy fairly expensive Pantages theater tickets to see the play of this, the play this movie was based on, just because it was there. Yeah. And the fact that I wore the leather jacket I still have to this day, and a white T-shirt so I could look like a T-bird. Like this movie is everything, which is why I insisted on running the salute to Olivia when she passed, because there probably was no musical centric movie that meant more to me from jump than Grease. Yes, Back to the Future has been in my life forever. Yes, I talked about it all last week, how much Pinocchio still means to me.
Pinocchio.
Which, again, y'all need to get on the Disney Plus and see that shit, for the love of God.
Here comes the show again, the corporate show.
This isn't a corporate show. This is a little Jeffrey Meacham going, dude, they actually did right by my movie. Get out there and see it. It's okay. Here's the show part. It's $1.99 right now, for real. Seriously, there's no excuse. But yeah, this one and Pinocchio and Back to the Future all are in that wheelhouse, but because, and again, Back to the Future could be on this list too. It really could, because a lot of it's set at Hill Valley High School, but it's not the primary focal point of the story like a lot of these are, or even a major underlying theme in the story like these are. So, all right, I have said my piece.
Okay.
So,
go ahead and switch over to comments so I can switch over to my thing.
And yes, I will be, but I will also be working on the closing of the show as I do this. So there you go.
Sounds
Carry on, my wayward
good.
son. There will be peace when you are done.
Sounds good. Well, that was a hell of a list, good sir. I knew you would not disappoint.
I try not to, usually, you know.
We're going to kick things off. We're going to kick it off with a bang here on my list. And I really was debating about which one of these to use, because I was originally going to go with the original.
Oh.
But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that the school aspect was definitely more minor in the original than it was in this particular version. Number 10 on my list, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, nice. I love it.
Yeah, like I originally had the Tobey Spider-Man image for the original. And I'm like, man, but there's so much more in this one that takes place at the school.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, you figure Peter is coming back after the Civil War. He's trying to integrate in the classes. You've got the homecoming dance, obviously. You've got the mathletes type of thing,
right?
With MJ on the team. There's so much more that is school centric in this particular version of the origin story, if you will. And it's not really an origin story, much like how you were talking about Buffy. You know, we're 6 months or so after being bitten by the spider.
Right.
Because he mentions in Civil War that happened 6 months ago.
Right.
And this opens with, you know, Peter cam footage of the battle at the airport from Civil War, and then him coming immediately back. So 7 months, maybe, post spider bite.
Yep.
Like,
which I thought was a cool way to go. They didn't have to tell the origin story. We all know Spidey's origin story at this point.
It's just like Batman's. Like, do we really need to see Thomas and Martha Wayne getting gunned down by a junkie in the middle of an alley?
Again? It's like, Jesus. Stop shooting these poor people already.
It's like,
they're human beings too.
We get it.
Yeah.
Move on.
Right.
You know, some of these other origin stories, you know, that Marvel brought out, the maybe mainstream in the comic books, but not so much done to death in the movies. Yeah, we need to know these stories. We need to know about Doctor Strange. We need to know about Iron Man. We need to know about Captain America. We need to know about Vision and Thor. We don't need to know about
Vision
Spider-Man.
and Wanda. Yeah, definitely those two, because I had no idea who they were before these movies. So
we'll see. And in one timeline, freaking Wanda is Magneto's daughter.
Yeah, that's
so you know, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are the spawn of Magneto, but with no mutants in the MCU at the time, how do you get around that?
I'm looking forward to see how they integrate all that shit now that they've actually starting to get their hands on X-Men. I'm like, this is going to be interesting how this all falls out. I mean, yes, multiverses are a thing, but even still, it's going to be fun to watch.
I'm hearing a rumor that Deadpool 3 is going to have a return to the wheelchair for Patrick Stewart.
They've killed Batman enough on screen in the Marvel
multiverse.
Movies. I know, but still.
Multiverse, you know?
It's like, I'm not going to get into spoilers if you haven't seen the movies, but
no.
You know what? Screw it. Yes, I am. They've disintegrated this poor bastard. They've freaking turned his head around upside down on one of them. Like, goddamn, leave Patrick alone.
But yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming, I figured was a great way to come out the gate here.
Dig it. I dig it.
Like I said at the start of the show, a lot of my movies are going to come out of left field here because I wanted to try to stray away from what I knew Jeff was going to do.
Okay.
Number 9 on my list definitely falls into that wheelhouse,
Oh
but
boy.
it's a movie that I love to death, and I don't own it yet. Finding it on DVD, Blu-ray has been near impossible.
Okay.
But it's another great mid 90s urban school, white teacher, female trying to turn things around. I'm talking about Sunset Park.
Oh wow. Jeez, yeah, that's definitely not my wheelhouse.
You know, Rhea Perlman, she's been left by her boyfriend. She wants to start a restaurant, and she's already working at the school as a teacher for one class. So she decides to pick up coaching the basketball team to make a little extra cash so she can get her dream done sooner rather than later.
Wow.
Ends up meeting this group of kids. Some of the highlights of the team is Fred Rostar from Onyx and a very, very young baby Terrence Howard.
Baby. Yes. Yes.
And it's the Mighty Ducks in basketball.
Very much
She
so.
takes these bunch of losers, shows them some stuff because she doesn't know nothing about basketball.
Right.
And they pick up on that real quick. So they give her no respect. They don't listen to her nothing. She's like, look, if y'all teach me about basketball, if y'all teach me about this sport, I'll teach you how to win. And the two sides are able to come together, go to the state championship.
See?
They lose, but just the fact that they got there just boosts their self-esteem, their pride. You know, they don't get that happy ending where they win the championship too. They still lose.
Right.
But now they're more determined than ever to repeat next year.
Exactly. And that, however you tell that story, it works, man.
Mm-hmm.
You've got
Coach, it's the proverbial rags to riches story.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's you know, the tagline for Ducks was he's never coached, they've never won. Together they'll learn about, you know, whatever, life lesson or whatever. It's like that shit just works.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Rhea Perlman, even now, you know, everybody loves Rhea Perlman. Like she's just one of those. You know, you can't help but love her, even though primarily her characters have been characters you just want to like flick off your table, just shut up, Carla especially. But yeah,
sassy and sarcastic, and she wasn't really that in this. She had to play more of the maternal mother role, which was an interesting twist for her.
Yeah,
and it worked.
Yeah, you usually see playing sassy and sarcastic, or she's playing, you know, the evil, you know, the evil maternal stuff. It's this was definitely a switch for her, and I felt like it could have gone sideways very quickly, and it didn't. It worked, which again, that story, that basic core story, with the right people, can work pretty much every time. And with Rhea, it definitely did.
Absolutely. And then a phenomenal soundtrack too, which we've discussed in the past on the channel.
Yes.
Top 10 movie soundtracks. I won't go all depth into that, but make sure you check that out.
It's in the archives, folks.
Number 8 on my list. I can't say on our list, but number 8 on my list is from a man who's definitely more known for being an action hero. Kindergarten Cop.
Honorable mention. Didn't even remember this. Damn. I'm mad at myself.
You know, I mean, this movie is so good and so cute, and it gets lost in the shuffle of the Schwarzenegger library.
Oh, it really does.
You know, you think of the Terminator, you think of the Predator, you think of Commando, you think of Conan the Barbarian, you think of the Last Action Hero. You don't really think about Kindergarten Cop.
But you should. It's so good.
It really is. Like, it's a forgotten gem from the early to mid 90s Schwarzenegger catalog, because it came out like right around the same time. I want to say either just before or just after Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Yeah, it's not too far off.
It's like it's totally forgotten because of how amazing that film was.
Right?
One of the biggest sequels ever,
Yeah.
especially at
Oh,
the
yeah.
time. Especially
Oh,
at
yeah.
the time. Granted, movie tickets are more expensive these days, so box office numbers are bigger these days, but
Well, of course.
early to mid 90s, arguably the biggest sequel of all time.
Well, yeah, and even when you adjust for inflation, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, again, that was the first one of them I saw. So that one always resonates with me, and it had the potential. It's like, how do you possibly go back on the original story? Because it was the original was damn good too. But man, Judgment Day went hold my freaking whatever the hell they were drinking on that in 1992,
Hold
91.
my everything.
Oh my, right? Yeah, well, there we go. There it is.
And then the fact that it spiraled into this multi-film franchise, it's like, no, you melted the Terminator. You destroyed Cyberdyne. Unnecessary. But I digress. Back to Kindergarten Cop, though. Again, so cute, so fun, and a step away from what you expect from Arnold.
Yes,
There's
absolutely.
definitely some action elements to the movie, but it's way more of a family centric film.
Exactly. I agree. And that's what it needed to be, because again, when a lot of times when you have these actors go out of their proverbial wheelhouse, it's disastrous. This is far from that.
Yeah, it showed a different side of him.
Yep.
That then was able to be capitalized on with films like Jingle All the Way, Junior.
Yes.
Things along
Junior
those
should
lines.
not have been good, and it was anyway. It was so we're dropping shit. It was so cute. I liked it.
Number 7 on my list made an appearance on your list. It's one of the two we share.
Ah.
So Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Nice, dude. I love it.
We talked about it on your list. A kid playing hooky, and while you were really too young to appreciate that film when it came out,
At the time, yes.
this movie was my Bible.
Right.
This movie is part of the reason why the vice principal at my junior high school had my dad on speed dial.
Yeah.
Because I was Ferris.
A little bit.
I was the guy that was always trying to get out of stuff. And I copied some of his tricks down to a T, the licking of the palms, all the stuff he covers in the first 20 minutes about the ways to play sick and not get rushed to the hospital. I've done all of them at least once.
Oh yeah.
Calling out to both work and telling my dad I was sick by making heaving noises and dumping soup into the toilet.
Oh, classic.
So it sounds like you're throwing up. I'm not proud to admit it at 46 years old.
Right.
But I'm being honest here. Ferris Bueller was my shit.
Yes. And as the dads, not always in wrestling, we do not advocate anybody doing this, especially our own children. You stop that right now.
Yeah. And as the dads who have seen this movie and done it, Natalie, Rose, Dylan, Evan, don't think y'all can get away with it because we know the tricks.
That's right. No.
Number 6 on my list is another one that goes outside the box a little bit. We're going to college for this one.
Oh.
And one man who is going for some higher education while his buddy is in the workplace, kind of a slacker. And when scholarships are about to be pulled and he's about to get thrown out of college, they decide to throw a house party.
Oh, jeez.
In order to raise the funds, the pajama jammy jam, in order to keep him in school. House Party 2, baby.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it.
I mean, this movie is all about higher education, if you will. And no, I'm not talking about smoking that sticky green,
Yeah, a little bit.
but you're just trying to make a better life. You know,
That's
kid
it.
was always expected to go to college. Play is play.
Of course.
At this point, Play is either an employee or manager at a record store.
Yeah.
So he's already out there in the workforce. He's making money. He's still trying to shop the Kid and Play name, get them signed, etc.
Right.
Kid's out there trying to bust his ass, do right by his father who had passed away.
Yeah.
So you've got the juxtaposition between, you know, trying to stay educated, try to better yourself, and being content with where you are in life. You've got the bullies full force who works security now on the college campus, so they're still messing with him.
Oh.
You've got the addition of Queen Latifah.
Yes.
To bring that educated black woman, sophisticated black woman to the forefront.
Yes.
Kind of as an opposite to Tisha Campbell. Not that Sydney wasn't educated, but when you compare and contrast, you definitely see the differences between the two characters.
Definitely a stark contrast. Absolutely.
I mean, you've got cameos from Ralph Tresvant, post New Edition. You've got cameos from Tony. You've got another amazing performance from Kid and Play rocking the mic at the party, the Pajama Jammy Jam.
Yes.
It's just a great movie all the way around.
It is.
It's the only one in my wheelhouse, I believe, that takes place in college. So everything else is high school or lower from here on out.
Fair enough.
Number 5, I feel really needs no introduction. It jump-started a huge franchise. Some of it necessary, some of it very unnecessary.
Oh my
American
goodness.
Pie.
Another honorable mention for me. Absolutely.
I mean, you just look at this cast of misfits here.
Right?
Jason Biggs, Allison Hannigan. You've got Tara Reid. You've got Sean William Scott. You've got
Thomas Ian Nichols.
Yes, thank you. You've got
Nina
so
Subari.
many great names there that went on and had tremendous careers post this, despite a lot of them being typecast.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at you, Sean William Scott.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know, even Jason Biggs, a couple years later, when he had his bit part in Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, talks about how he's always going to be known as being the pie fucker.
Right? Yeah. I think the only one that was typecast worse than Stifler, though, was Stifler's mom.
That wasn't a bad typecast for her, though. I'm just saying she made bank off of that for a
Jennifer
minute.
Coolidge took that shit and ran. So good on her.
But American Pie, though, I mean, you can give the props to the main timeline: 1, 2, wedding, and reunion. Yeah. Everything outside of that is really unnecessary.
Yes, very true. Very true. I don't necessarily mind the standalones, the offshoots. They're funny, but this timeline is definitely, and I like that they went back and got everybody back for reunion, because wedding didn't get everybody, and that was kind of a bummer.
The only one I think that was missing from wedding was Shannon Elizabeth. Everybody else, I think, was there.
No, Mina didn't come back for that one, I don't think. I noticed there were a lot more missing than I anticipated, but everybody came back for reunion, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, the first one especially, again, you know, people were leery about the second one because, like, how do you possibly tell this kind of shit again? And
exactly, it's like 16 Candles didn't have a sequel. No. The Breakfast Club didn't have a sequel. Why is this getting a sequel? This was very much a throwback to those Brat Pack John Hughes movies.
Yep. And
they didn't need a sequel. Why does this?
No. The only reason the sequel worked is because of the college setting. Number one and number two, because they upped the raunch exponentially because they had to for that type of story.
And part 2, I think, is the weakest of the 4.
As do I.
Personally.
As do I. But again, it's one of those, they were going to go ahead with it, so they did what they felt they had to do. I still say it wasn't necessary to go past the first one in any case, even with Wedding and Reunion being as good as they turned out to be. But the first one, again, we've all been there. We've all been that person who gets walked in on in a moment that you don't want to get walked in on at some point or another. We've all been that awkward, person in school. Hell, I still don't like to shit in public now. I don't. I absolutely refuse to, unless it's unfortunately for Finch, in his case, it was emergency because of help. But you gotta go. But if I don't have to, I don't. Like, for real. That it just weirds me out to do that in public. Or in a public restroom. If you're in public, you can go to jail. Let me just throw that out there quick. I don't encourage that either, kids. Don't do that either. No. That's wrong. That's even worse than ditching school. I'd rather you do that than shit in the middle of the street.
Public indecency.
Yeah, public indecency. That's right. You're shitting in the street. Ron White, thank you for that. This one, again, we've all been one of these kids. Every single one of us has been one of the people in this movie.
Or a nice little hybrid.
Right. And I think that's what made it work I think this one came out in 99. So we're right at the turn of the century. I'm the age these guys are in this movie, basically, around the time the movie came out. Like, I'm maybe a year behind them at this point. So I am all up in that mindset. I am all up in everything, going to prom and having a woman to take with you and being able to throw down after that dance is over. It was everything. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I definitely would include it in any list that takes place in a school setting, because it's just you mentioned it's very much our Brat Pack era movie. And you're a few years ahead of me, but the kids that went to high school in the late 90s, early 2000s, this is our Brat Pack jam.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Brat Pack jam, number 4 was on your list, The Breakfast Club.
And that's coming up for you pretty soon, or did you do that one? I lost track of.
Coming up pretty soon. I believe that's going to be the week after this one.
Okay, cool.
I mean, what more can we say about it that we didn't already say on Jeff's list? So we're just going to quickly bypass and move along. But that's the only other one that me and Jeff share.
Which,
coincidentally,
again,
it was the 2 John Hughes ones that we shared.
Again, I don't think John Hughes can be praised enough for his movies, especially school set / school age movies. That dude knew his place, knew his shit. For real.
Fingers on the pulse of coming of age.
Yeah. And everything he did, not just the school stuff, hit right in the feels with somebody.
Yeah.
That's the mark of a great director. Can't even stress that enough.
Number 3 on my list is going to be another one that really kind of comes out of left field for some people. But I've seen this movie a couple of times now, and it just hits on all points with me. If I'm remembering correctly, it's a high school prep school. So a little bit more elite that it takes place at.
Right.
And the cast in this, I mean, you want to talk about star-studded, especially for the time and coming out. School time.
Wow, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just take a moment to soak in those 4 names.
Right.
Brendan Fraser, Chris O'Donnell,
yep,
Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 completely different generations of a Batman in Affleck and a Robin in O'Donnell.
Yep.
Right out the jump there.
Yes.
Then you got Matt Damon, who goes on to make his name in dramatic, coming of age, school type roles there with Talented Mr. Ripley, Good Will Hunting, etc. down the road. he got Brendan Fraser, who wanted this to come out prior to Encino Man, because
Yep.
this was finished and in the bag before Encino Man.
Yep.
But Encino Man came out first. So immediately this movie drops, and it's like trying to change that image of him as Link.
Yeah, which is such a muckerfucker, man. Oh my
And
god.
and he's been more of the goofball ever since
Yep.
Link. You think
Yep.
Dudley Do Right, you think George of the Jungle.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's not like he hasn't been able to get away on occasion,
Right.
but they're definitely few and far between. The best that he ever did was playing Rick in the Mummy franchise.
Yep.
Get
But
away from that typecast. But even Rick had a little bit of that humor to him because of the subject matter, trying to keep it from being straight up horror and make it more action comedy.
and when you think about how, I mean, there was a video released really recently how much damage he did to himself doing those type of movies to try to break out of the Link typecast, that his body just completely gave out on him.
Yeah.
So
And the fact that he popped up in cameos in pretty much every Pauly Shore movie thereafter as Link didn't help him any,
no.
but it did show what a cool dude he was, that he was able to give back to what launched him to superstardom.
Yep.
Because he is in Son-in-Law. He is
Yep.
in the Army now.
Yep. And just think what would have happened if this had come out actually first and been a mainstream thing before Encino Man. Like, would that have been the same path he'd taken, or would he have actually been able to, play this off and actually make it something where he stayed in more of the dramatic vein and more of the, like you said, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, went on, years later than people realized, to do Good Will Hunting and really get themselves off to the next stratosphere. Chris O'Donnell was not too far off from playing Robin. So, this really could have been all four of them's defining moment, but because Encino Man hit first, everybody saw Brendan as dude first. And it was arguably detrimental to his physical state. Box office, dude's making money. He ain't gonna bitch. But this movie, and again, I've only seen it once ever, and I loved it. So if I'd seen it more, I probably would have made at least an honorable mention on my list. But it is a very well-told, well-made movie, and I think it doesn't get near enough love, again, because of the timing.
I couldn't agree with you more, though, Jeff. I mean, I regret that I saw this movie as late in life as I did. I wish I had seen it closer to when it came out. It just wasn't my wheelhouse at the time.
No,
Nowadays, it definitely is. I adore it. Number 2, I won't say is in the similar vein, but it also takes place in a prep school.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it's the last film in a trilogy, and the only one where the school really comes into factor.
Look at
D3,
you throwing the
Mighty
D3
Ducks.
up. Whoa. It's funny you did. I almost wore my Green Ducks jersey today. I don't know why, but I almost did that. Like, it was almost as if you were speaking to me through the ether,
I mean, you figure the first movie, there's like a scene in school.
Yeah.
The whole "I will not quack at the principal." D2, they're tutored by Miss McKay.
Right.
D3 is the only one where they really are in a legitimate school setting for a good chunk of the movie, because they're the JV hockey team now.
Yeah, and the school is a major factor in the story on a lot of levels.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. I couldn't have Sunset Park and not have the Ducks. Especially since I sat here and described Sunset Park as the Mighty Ducks, but basketball.
Yes, this is true.
I mean, I'd be criminal if I left the Ducks off my list. And you know me, any time that I get to discuss the Ducks,
Yeah.
it's a good day, Tater.
And especially since, like you said, the first one doesn't take place in school,
No,
but the real Pearl movie very much does take place in a school setting, so it does tie into that. This one, like I said, the school is such a major part of D3 that you have to.
exactly.
Yeah,
Because it comes back to like you were talking about with Mean Girls not fitting in. These kids don't belong. They're only there because they got a free ride on a scholarship because they won the Junior Goodwill Games. Now they've got to prove that they deserve to be there,
yep.
both on the ice and in the classrooms. And in the classrooms, they're doing great.
Yes.
But on the ice, they're falling apart.
Yep.
Because Bombay is gone, their other enforcer, Portman, is gone, and Charlie's being a dick.
Yeah. I was going to say, people talk about a lot about the fact that D2 is basically a D1 retread, and I can't argue with a lot of that. This is very much Charlie's movie. This is very much, okay, Charlie is the one with the issue. Charlie is the one that is not adjusting to the changes in his life, good, bad, or whatever. He is having a major issue with a lot of this. So
Absolutely.
I love that you included this movie and that it's so high. That makes my day, because people shit on D3. I go, dude, eat me. This movie's awesome.
It really is. And you want to talk about movies that need to be applauded for being on my list. Movies that are so high on the list. Number one, Back to the Future. And you talked on your list about how it could be there, but the school isn't a central part. I disagree. I completely disagree. When we first meet Marty, he's late to school because he stopped at Doc's house to play on his amplifier.
Okay.
He arrives at school, he's late. He's getting busted by Principal Strickland.
Yes.
He's auditioning to be the band at the dance. But, he's too darn loud, as Huey Lewis says, as his band tries to play a Huey Lewis and the News song.
Yeah.
Then he goes back in time. Then he sees his dad and his mom at school. He plays Johnny Be Good at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance where they fall in love and kiss for the first time. The school, while maybe not as central focused as D3, has some very major storyline driven moments. And as such, I feel like I needed to pray to the gods and include that as my number one. And when I saw that you didn't have it on your list, I was like, oh, wow, again? First, the musical moments in non-musical movies, you didn't have Johnny Be Good at all.
Right.
And you still kick yourself to this day.
Yes, I do. But at least this one I had what I thought was a valid argument.
And then here for this one, you didn't have it either. I was like, dude, Back to the Future, like, come on.
I felt that I was justified, but again, there's a lot more that is focused on the school setting, at least peripherally, than I gave it credit for. It wasn't a complete forget like the damn song. That was a complete what the hell. But this one, at least, I can definitely understand where I strayed in my thought process, but again, if I went back and thought, it would definitely be up there. Grease is still my favorite movie set in a school setting. It always will be. But Back to the Future, again, it's very much like Michaels and Flair. It's definitely 1A, 1B, because Back to the Future is my favorite movie, period. But yeah, I can see where school threads through a lot of it. It seemed more like it was not the focus, but I guess when I think about it, it was. So again, well played.
It's a very integral part. You figure in 1985, before Marty goes back in time, they're sitting there at the dinner table talking about where they had that
Their
moment, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
And then to see that play out later in the film, it's like,
Yep.
this is very much a thread that brings the whole story together, because now it's about making sure that moment happens. If that moment at the fish under the sea dance, the enchantment under the sea dance, does not take place, nothing that happens after it exists. There is no part 2. There is no part 3. There is no animated series.
There's no
There's
ride.
no universal ride.
There
That
isn't now
moment
either.
at that dance in the school gym has to take place, or literally everything in Marty's existence ceases to exist.
Well, then
And we
hear it
start to
now.
see that happening on stage during Earth Angel.
Well, in that case, even though you had a very recent success on a different platform, I apologize to Mr. Zemeckis, Mr. Silvestri, and everybody else involved in Back to the Future, because I done fucked up again.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It has been my honor and my privilege to catch Jeff 2 times now.
2
When it
times?
comes to Back to the Future. Two time.
That's right.
So that is my list. That is Jeff's list. What do you guys think? Let us know. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over there next to Mr. Meacham. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down where? Down there.
That's right.
Jeff, why don't you tell people what's coming up here during the week?
All right. Well, thank you again, Jay, for throwing over to me and making me realize what a buffoon I am when it comes to my own damn movie. We'll go ahead and move right along. So, again, if you watched earlier in the day, cool. If not, even if you did, go back and watch it again, because JJ covered Clueless today over on Renegade's Reviews, so check that out. That went up at 2 p.m. today, because we be at 3 p.m. today, so JJ's very accommodating when it comes to the dad's time slot.
Yes.
Well, he'll also have Mean Girls on Wednesday, continuing with his female lead this week. And then Friday, of course, Heathers with just if ever there was an 80s cast, Heathers is it.
Right? Winona Ryder, Christian Slater, and Shannon Doherty in the movie that got Shannon Doherty the role of Brenda Walsh.
Yeah, I mean, that's
at the end of the day, because Tori Spelling saw Heathers and told her daddy Aaron, this girl needs to be part of the show.
Yeah.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yes, good or bad with Shannon. Lord knows.
And remember, if you're going to sit down and watch the Mean Girls review with me on Wednesday, on Wednesdays we wear pink.
Oh, yes.
So make sure that you're rocking some form of pink on that day. Otherwise, you can't sit with us.
Even your Samoa Joe and rock that pink keychain. If you know, you know, folks. If you don't, you can't watch because it's not online anymore. Anyway, Saturday he'll have his new releases. Saturday, as Kevin Hart brings another classic to Netflix. It's not really classic because it's brand new, but it's bound to be a classic with these two yuckles involved. Freaking Me Time. It is a Netflix exclusive. You can check it out right now on Netflix. Yes.
Yes.
So definitely get on that before Jay reviews it Saturday. Make sure you watch it so that way you're not ignorant about what's going on, because ignorance is not an excuse. And I'm quoting a New York City judge on that one. Sunday, the War Zone. What is in the War Zone this week, Mr. Williams? Do you have a particular wheelhouse you're going into this weekend? Because
not
last
yet.
Sunday, good Lord.
Not yet.
All right, we will definitely be on the lookout, on the horizon for the War Zone. But before you get to the War Zone, you got to go through Thursdays on the Renegades Reviews, because She-Hulk is still a thing, at least through October 20th.
That's right. And David Otunga is now a member of the MCU, so there's always
Love it.
Now we've got Batista and Otunga in the MCU official.
Yeah, Dylan run in and do an Unga Tunga cameo, but he won't do it because he's too cool for that now. So it's okay. And then on the me side of things, of course, and I didn't hold this one in. God damn it all to hell. Well, as I go ahead and plug my stuff here, of course, Wednesday you can check out The Greg Cherry Show, as you can each and every Wednesday on both the Greg Cherry brand and, for now at least, the Jeff Meacham Network, depending on if I'm there or not, because you never know with Wednesdays with me, especially once the Mask Mafia takes over my existence. But before we get there, Tuesday on the Casa D-18 Studios, which is tomorrow, Stat Boy Sports Bar featuring Dory Lou. It is week 1 of the NFL season. At last, we're finally here. Good grief. Took forever, it felt like, to get through that damn summer and preseason. Lord almighty. But Mikey will be back with everything that happened in week 1, including the Cowboys and the Buccaneers game yesterday. So it was what it was. But that is that on Tuesday, followed, of course, by the return for now to the usual time slot of 10:05 Eastern, 7:05 Pacific of Talk Wrestling on all 4 channels. I'm just going to kind of keep going until I can't no more on that show, basically, is how it's going to work out. Because it's just one of those, I mentioned it, that I was trying to set it up as a no net underneath me, but not doing the shows is undercutting my profit on this side of things. So for now, just got to keep on keeping on. As the boss said, keep moving forward until we can't anymore. So there you go.
Exactly.
But that is all coming up this week. Of course, we'll be back here next week in this time slot of 3 p.m. Disneyland time, 6 p.m. for you kids out there in Disney World area with our ranking of the top 10 TNA/Impact X Division champions. Again, very much a JJ thought process. He wanted to talk about it, and I can't blame him, even though he and I didn't really watch a whole lot of TNA/Impact in the post-Hogan era, but there are plenty of clips and videos to go around and watch and play catch-up ball, which we have both done now, and I'm looking forward to this. And, again, it's very obvious, JJ got his belt, and we were happy about that open mic night. So that's the reason, a major reason why we're doing that show. We were going to do that show on that Monday anyway, so it kind of just worked. Actually, I take it back. We were going to do that show the first part of the month. Today's show and that show is kind of flip-flopped a few times because of scheduling and shenanigans. So
shenanigans, buy the shirt.
#shenanigans. Buy that shirt over at the spring store for the Jeff Meacham Network. It is a Dad's Not Always a Wrestling shirt, so be on the lookout for that. It's got shenanigans down the front. Buy it in purple and gold. You know you want to, because that's the way it should be on Dad's, damn it. So anyway, I believe that's it for the shameless promotion. So
there we go.
If you will, brother.
Thank you once again for joining us here today on the Dad's Not Always on Wrestling, as we discussed our top 10 films set in school. For the West Coast Professor Jeff Meacham, I am the Renegade JJ Williams, and we will see you guys next week right here on both the Casa D-18 Studios channel and the Jeff Meacham Network when we discuss the top 10 X Division champions. See you then.